welcome. In this episode of the Arado podcast, we are continuing our exploration into the Swedish IT industry, and we are joined by Jonas Bjering from Piktiv. Welcome to the podcast, Jonas.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you are a really good person to interview because you have a special viewpoint into the field, since you are the CEO and have been a CEO of Piktiv for now for over 10 years, and you are located in this rather small town in Sweden called Skövde. Was that?
Yeah, Skövde. You got my name very nicely, but you should not have to pronounce Skövde. That's for natives only, I think.
Okay, yeah. So it's it's already pretty deep in the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Piktiv is a consulting company, and you sort of list as your three main competences: system development, analysis, and digital marketing.
Yes, this is what our homepage present, and we are. That's definitely what we do. I would say the focus is on system development. That's where we are really big, but the growth is happening within the growth areas of marketing and analysis.
Okay.
And within the system development, we do many different things, such as we work a lot with finance industry, work with game development, and we do a lot of machine learning projects.
So you have already sort of branched into machine learning as well.
Yes. I think we were very early with that.
Okay. Is there sort of what is the main thing combining these three, or sort of how did you find yourself in digital marketing all of a sudden?
That's a tougher question. They are all very fun and interesting, and I find that they have much more in common than you might think, because it comes down to being system development at its core. Even though traditionally I have worked in the games industry and I've worked in the finance industry, and it's not that common, that some often feels like they are separate fields, but they have much more in common than people who only live in one of the industries would like to admit, I think.
What are the sort of commonalities here? Can you describe a few?
Well, essentially it comes down to programming, understand the client requirements, what you're supposed to get done, and do that in a disciplined and efficient manner. And the fact that you're building a complex business logic for a compensation scheme, or you're implementing game logic, is fairly superficial difference, actually.
So it actually sort of the main parts of the logic are actually pretty similar.
Yes, and what makes you a great programmer or developer in one field usually transfers pretty good.
Okay, so you're actually able to develop yourself competences in different fields rather quickly as well.
That's our experience.
Yeah, that's at least how you've experienced it. To get a bit of background first, you have been the CEO of Piktiv now for 11 years, at least that's what LinkedIn said.
Yeah.
How did you decide to become an entrepreneur and found your own company?
Well, this time around with Piktiv, it came from actually I started the company 2008 as a one-man consultancy firm. It wasn't called Piktiv then. And my ambition then was to do some consulting to fund my game development.
Okay.
Now I quickly ended up getting a lot of really interesting consulting jobs, and the other thing got postponed. But I found that I enjoy being a contractor rather than being an employee. And as I scaled this by hiring more people, I found it even better, because I could do the thing that has always been so important to me, and that is to work in the right way and take a responsibility for quality in a sense that to my experience, it has been much easier as an external company than working in various roles as an employee.
Uh-huh. Like in what way is it easier?
I think the clients we have had has expected us to act very independently. They have wanted to be there and help us understand the job they need to get done, and then they have been relying on us to get it done the right way. And of course, this is how most software development should happen, but I feel in a company there's usually more pressure also on how things should be done.
So what would then be the sort of customer projects or something that you can actually tell about that sort of tell really well what Piktiv does the best? Do some cases come into mind?
Well, one case that pretty much defined Piktiv as the company that we are today was when we made a gamification of trading. So we, for a client that is in the retail forex space, we made it possible to compete using fake money for a fixed amount of time in trading, and we kept the top list of this. And this was a very ambitious project where we, in the end, managed to hold an event called the World Championship of Forex, with the possibility to handle 50,000 simultaneous users. So that was a very challenging project where we had to develop the backend technology from scratch to be scalable, and a novel user experience. So we had to iterate on that as well to get it right, and integrate it with existing trading software.
Oh, okay. So, and I guess it must have been fun to kind of combine this sort of Piktiv work and then your background in gaming.
Yes, and I think it's why we got why they trusted us to deliver this. So another typical a good example that shows the breadth of things we do, which I think is kind of special since we are quite a small company, is that we for a startup here, we are building their complete software system, and it has a machine learning aspect with computer vision inside the Raspberry Pi that is communicating with a cloud solution that's built with the Kubernetes in Amazon. And then there are apps connecting to this. So to deliver the end user experience usually means we touch a lot of different technologies. And then again, I must say, because it's the biggest project we're doing right now, is a game development project where we use Unreal Engine 4. So again, there are quite a few technology stacks that we are working with.
Okay, yeah, and it sounds like really sort of like, as you said, it's really wide. Like you have a lot of competence.
I like to say that we really want to look at what the problem is, and we are not a shop that comes, okay, we know these technologies, what can we do for you? We want to sit down and listen. What are the problems that you really need help, that would help you the most, and then we together find the solutions. And it has often been the case that we don't know a technology when we start working with it. So, but we do understand what the client needs to get done, and we find a way to remove this risk as soon as possible. So we might bring in someone from the outside that teach us, or we have a ramp-up period while we study the technology. We might give a discount when we are agreeing to it, because this way we grow our competence and we can pick the right technology. We don't come with an answer before we hear the question.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really interesting way to approach it. You are many of you then sort of senior level in development then, since as I've understood, it is like doing stuff like that, sort of learning things kind of as you go and while the project is running. learning to handle new technologies during that, it's more easier for senior developers, but
Yeah,
or have you somehow
we have a mix.
Okay.
But I think everyone that works with us are attracted by this opportunity to learn new things. That goes for junior as well as senior. But we try to avoid leaving anyone that's fairly fresh out of school alone on the project. Then we pair them with someone that has at least a couple of years of experience. And up until recently, I was personally involved in almost every project. But now we have been growing, but I have people that has been working with me since the beginning, so they are starting to become quite senior from that alone. And we have been recruiting a lot more senior people to help us scale and keep this approach as we grow.
Yeah, so you're sort of building a firm base for you to continue.
Yes.
You actually mentioned before we started this interview that you are now sort of transitioning from doing development work yourself into being only the CEO, as I guess you could say.
Slowly, the dream of doing a lot of programming myself is fading away, and I am accepting that I do the most good for the company as a CEO. But I love to have technical discussions, and usually for a software consultant company, one of the biggest challenges for growth is recruiting. And letting everyone know that they come to a company where the boss really care about the craft, I think has helped us immensely. So I think I will still find lots of opportunity to engage in interesting technical discussions, even though I might not commit that much source code anymore.
Yeah. As you said, the dream is slowly fading away, but you can still have the discussions and sort of have a touch to the field anyway.
Yes.
That actually sounded really similar when you said that the hardest part of growing is recruiting. So I guess in Sweden as well, the situation is so that it's there are a lot of gigs available, a lot of jobs available, and there's a lot of work to be done with digitalization and different projects. But then people who would actually be able to work in the field, there are not too many of those. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's always the case, and especially the really good ones, the ones you prefer to have. But I think we are very much helped by the domains we happen to work in. I don't want to say it's been a strategy, but looking back, it's been very fortunate for us to the fact that we work in the fields we are with the fintech and machine learning and game development. These are areas that attract a lot of technically very skilled people. So that's been fortunate. Another thing that has worked really well for us is being located where we are in Skövde. We don't have the same churn as I think they experience in Stockholm, for instance. So I think locally we are one of the top employers for programmers, and it's been our ambition actually from the start to become the top place to work in Skövde for programmers, and that's
congratulations.
That's a reasonable goal for a company, since it's not that big city.
Yeah, and I guess do you also have have this happening in Sweden, that Stockholm or sort of the capital city becomes so important and so big that most of the people who actually have the competences and no development, they end up moving there even though they don't necessarily want to. So
yes. I myself lived in Stockholm for 10 years. I went to Royal Institute of Technology there and started working and stayed. So of course it has a huge attraction. It has that's one of the top educations, but and a lot of the startups there that are known internationally, like Spotify, Mojang, Klarna, those companies are based there. Back when I studied it, it was Ericsson that was a big employer. But yes, it's still the case that Stockholm has this. It's almost like a different country in some aspects. But I must say that I think if I had stayed in Stockholm, I would just be a one-man company still, and work together with others in networks. But here in Skövde, it's been really nice to establish something more that has a company culture of its own, and that has the capacity to take on long-term projects. I think that's also might be particular to Piktiv, because we don't typically do resource consulting. We don't send our guys out to be just another staff member. Rather, we actually take on whole projects and even products. The whole life cycle, where we work with the product for many years.
How have you managed to grow into that?
Well, we started like that, actually.
Okay.
When we got the first offer to work, it was actually this project I mentioned earlier, where we built a gamification of trading, or let's say we built a game based on trading. That was a long development time before we shipped the first version, but as soon as we did, it went into maintenance and gradual improvement. And that's the same thing. Then we got another project from the same client, which we also built and deployed and has been maintaining since. And we have a very close collaboration where we are actually like one of their development teams, but they have a product owner that we report to each week. And well, we have weekly sprints, but we talk to people at all levels in that organization several times per day. So we're very integrated with that.
Yeah, you are integrated, but still autonomous sort of
Exactly.
inside.
Exactly.
That is actually really interesting too. So, is it just about sort of picking the right companies and picking the right kind of projects to be able to do that, or is there like some kind of, or was it simply just deciding to do only projects like that?
I wanted to do it like that because I did not want it to be about 1 month long projects. I think it's very hard to many developers want to work on something, and I see it as a challenge as a consultant company that people prefer product companies because they really like the discuss the end user and own the whole life cycle. And I think this way we get to work like that, even though we are an independent company. So we are free from any company politics pretty much. We are isolated. We can improve the processes on our own. We can pick our tools by our own. We can choose how we do training and recruiting, many critical processes on our own. But we still get the benefit of working on a product for long term. Why it works, I think it's the things you mentioned. It needs to be the right project, it needs to be the right company, it needs to be the right people at that company that is open to this. And then you have to earn the trust. So, I mean, it's a bootstrapping problem where you earn the trust. You get past this, okay, these are these consultants that want to cost this much money. And rather, when you get it to a win-win where you together sit and look at how can we build this product, how can we maintain this product, how can we grow the business.
So it's sort of
course, one of the key ingredients is a good process. I mean, it's also about good people on our side, but also allowing these people to work in a good way. And I think Piktiv has throughout its history been very good at that.
Good processes.
Yes. and also always iterate on the process and make sure that the teams own the process. So that's to have a retrospective or other feedback mechanism where the team can shape how they work has been in place from day one. And it shows cumulative benefit after a while in so many ways. I mean, both in that fact that the process really worked, but also that the team feels really empowered to control how they work.
Yeah, so it's not only iterating on what is being worked on, but also iterating on how it's being worked on.
Yes, exactly. And to be honest, as from Piktiv's point of view, that's almost more interesting. I mean, obviously, the product is super important. This is the value we deliver to the client. But long term for Piktiv, the other thing stays with us over projects. And even as we split teams and they go to different projects, they take with these lessons with them. I think it's a challenge as a consultant company to think about, why do we exist? What is the value we bring to our staff members? Why shouldn't they run independent companies and just network as freelancers? And vice versa to our clients. Why should we work with these consultants doing it? Why shouldn't we build an organic team? So I try to be very aware of what we can bring to the table.
Yeah, those are really good, sort of these profound questions that I think all consultancy companies need to.
Yeah, and my answer to this, our answer is that Piktiv is a company where you can get to work the way you like, and what I mean with that, the way we like is with a focus on quality.
Yeah,
and we take it. It's my job often, or other people that interact with clients initially, to find the clients that share that view that quality really pays off. And then you get into a very positive spiral that both employees and clients like. People like to work with that.
Yeah, you sort of establish the connection, and then from there on, it's much easier. How would you describe what are companies using you for? Like, well, you already said that you don't do any resource consulting, but do companies want to work with you to kind of build whole new products, or do they want to get in new competences, or why are they using you as an outside consultancy?
So usually they want something. Obviously, they want something done, and examples could be that it's a startup that wants to do their MVP. We have done that. It could be an established company that has a specific system they are not happy with. They would like to build their own version of it. That is a role we have had. I don't think they bring us in to learn new things. They bring us in to build a product they need, either to support their core business or actually being their core business.
Yeah, and they sort of need those extra hands and the know-how.
Yes. And that could be for different reasons. I would say the typical is time. These are companies that are growing organically themselves as fast as they can and want. But they found a good partner in us, so they keep us as well.
Yeah, that is sounds really powerful that you are able to get into that position of being these.
Yeah, we've been lucky
partners.
To be honest. I mean, I think we're doing a good job, but we have been lucky with clients as well, and timing, and the fact that they have enjoyed business success. That has been critical to our growth.
Well, but I mean, it also does sound like you might be a bit modest there. If you have been able to do that many times, then it probably doesn't have to do only with luck. How do you then sort of, because I understand that you like building the connection and getting into being able to be that trusted partner is like you are able to do that when you get to work with the client. But then I would like to ask, how do you get clients in the first place? Or how have you been able to get clients? Because in Finland, it usually works through interpersonal relationships. Some developers know people, or the CEOs of companies know people, and then they find their consultancies that way. But then, how does that work in Sweden? Is it sort of all based on, for example, on your personal network, or how have you been able to get like new clients?
I think it's very similar in Sweden.
Okay.
The personal network has been really important. And the beginning of the company, it was, I mean, I started as a solo consultant, a contractor, and it was ex-colleagues that knew Jonas probably can get this done. And then after a while, I scaled it to a team. And our current project has mostly been that they knew about us, they knew me, or they knew some other developer in the company, and they wanted to work with us.
Yeah.
Of course, there might have been a bidding process involved where they checked with others as well, but at least we were invited to the bidding thanks to the network.
Yeah.
I think there are cases where just this roadmap to where do you establish this trust that you have this long-term connection. We have done smaller projects in the beginning. It might start, with a small pre-study. It starts with an MVP, and then it transforms into pretty much an ongoing maintenance team for a product that is continuously developed. So it's a multi-stage rocket until you have what we call the ideal client that gives us this perpetual trust.
Yeah, sort of. And when you are able to do those little things and those first things with good quality and well, then it sort of shows off that you can be trusted in the long run as well.
Exactly. I mean that's how it works, and that's it's very pleasing actually that most of the successful sales work we can do is to deliver well.
Yeah, good work speaks for itself, kind of. How do you see the sort of field developing in the near future? Then, do you see some technologies sort of really interesting to you and seem to be
Yes.
carrying a lot of possibilities?
Yes.
Can you tell about those?
So I mentioned earlier, but machine learning is one of these technologies now, and I feel back when I studied in the late 1990s, I was super interested in artificial intelligence. But of course, it didn't really take off back then. When I saw a couple of years ago here how the technology was definitely ready for widespread implementation, I felt I really wanted to be part of this. And I felt also going back to the end of the 90s there, that the technology that really took off then was, of course, the World Wide Web and internet and everything based on that. And I think just as it has become, it's any software company today has to consider internet. It's just stupid. It's part of the solution package. I see a future where the same applies to machine learning. And I have a bit of an issue with how it's presented today, because it's presented as this all new thing, and what is actually just a little, it is to me, it's just another tool in the toolbox for the complete system developer. And I want Piktiv to be really good at using this tool. And I want us to be able to meet maybe, especially, I would say, small and medium-sized companies that don't have this knowledge in-house. I think we know how to actually build stuff with this. So I'm hoping to get in contact, with CEOs that that might have ideas of what they want, or other people in companies, they've heard about this technology, they have some ideas of how they could make it work, but who should build the system? They might not even have a development organization today. And I think that that's a space where we would fit in. And I would be very proud to see Piktiv being a part of this machine learning revolution.
Okay, that's really interesting. Then well, you must be thinking about this a lot. So I want to ask, so how do you then get that going on an organizational level? Like, it's sort of like you are
So
yourself ambitious about it and interested about it, but then how do you get the
yeah,
team motivated as well?
yeah, you need to find those that are motivated.
Mm.
And I'll be honest, not every developer feels this is something they have so many things they want to learn. They want to learn this new JavaScript front-end framework. They might want to learn to develop UX better for a user, or other things, you know, and that's perfectly fine. But you need to have a lot of people that are interested, and we luckily have. And I've also been recruiting people who has actually real life experience with machine learning. Well, people, I say, I recruited one guy. We're a small company,
Yeah,
but that was very important, of course, to help, in addition to our own cases, to have some real life experience, and then also encourage people to train. So when we have people that are not allocated in projects, they can spend a month to learn the fundamentals of this technology.
okay,
And these are the most motivated persons to learn that. So what usually happens is that they spend additional time of their spare time
okay.
to be even better on it.
Ah,
And I think this is the main. We will have a few. We have one, and we will have more experts on this. But I also think it should be integrated with each software developer. We usually hire full stack developers, and in my opinion, in the future, full stack developer will include competence in machine learning.
okay. These are good predictions. it, but yeah, it's interesting to hear that you, at least you feel like this is the technology is so fundamental that it needs to be taken into account already now.
Yeah, and I think to the extent you can afford to think strategically, this is worth doing, and that's what we do. So,
Yeah, and I really like the idea of giving your employees a month to just study something.
yes, and this paid off pretty well, pretty quickly for us as well. So it might sound very expensive, but compared to recruiting a person, or compared to losing a critical
Yeah.
person, it's not expensive. And as a CEO, I felt a lot of appreciation, and that made me very happy.
Yeah.
I think it's going very well, and this is one of the smartest investments you can make, I think.
Yeah, that sounds sounds like really good long-term thinking there. Then what would be your of course there are a lot of resources on this throughout the internet, but what would be do you want to give some tips on how to begin with machine learning if someone wants to start practicing themselves?
Yeah, we actually all went through the Coursera machine learning specialization.
Okay.
It's a good basic thing, and it covers a lot of different fields, from computer vision to natural language processing. I I like to have the fact that we did it all. Everyone that works with this in the company took this course, means we have a shared language, and it happens, you know, we can refer to as he thinks here, and so on. So I think that's a really good starting point. And then I really like the Cholet, the developer behind Keras. He wrote a book of deep learning in Python. I think there's a version for R as well, but we use Python. I think that's a really good complementary book. get very practical, up to speed advice about this.
Great. I think those are really good starting points if someone wants to
Yes.
Also get hop into the machine learning train. Then lastly, I would like to talk about remote work, and especially since, well, you are located in, I'm going to try and pronounce it again, Skövde.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess, well, it sounds like you probably don't get your projects from there. You sort of
No,
have to.
well, it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
One cool fact about Skövde is that
Okay.
it's kind of a phenomena in the game development space.
Aha.
And it was very cool to see the other day, just a couple of months ago, the top 5 selling games on Steam. 2 of
Okay.
them was actually developed in Skövde.
What? Okay. What
So,
are the names of those games?
The Raft and Satisfactory from 2 different
Wow.
studios. And we are very proud to be one of our clients is one of these companies, and so there are really great international clients in Skövde, and we also have a local startup because there's a well-functioning incubator here, so that's part of my network and part of where we have find partners. But yes,
Okay.
no, our biggest client, that we do this financial software for, it's located in Cyprus. So,
okay.
So no, we don't think of ourselves as a local company, but as it happens, we actually got business here as well.
Yeah. How is it sort of generally then? If you're thinking of, well, companies in Cyprus, they are probably pretty remote ready, sort of from the get-go.
Actually, when this pandemic hit us, we were actually on a business trip, me and a few colleagues in Cyprus, and I saw they're a much bigger company than us. They have much more preparedness for this, and I saw all the actions they took. And heard, the laptops have sold out in Cyprus, and so that's when we sprang into action and said we better get ourselves ready to work from home, and we did that very rapidly, and we are still working from home. Essentially, there are a few people that are allowed in the office because they really prefer to, but instead of 25 people at the office, there are 3.
Yeah, so you managed to transform really quickly, and
and I think in Sweden we stood out because Sweden lagged a few weeks before we took all these precautions, so that felt good.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to do now is the difficult thing to think about when we go back, and we look a lot at other bigger companies to see when they start to say let's work from. That's probably when we will follow suit.
Well, I mean, if you look at the biggest one, then what would, like, Twitter said that they won't be returning until next year, and Twitter announced that they will never require it again, and even Google said that they won't be returning to work.
No, we haven't gotten to that discussion yet, but I can say that our experience working from home has been very good.
Yeah,
I don't think we had a big drop in productivity, and in many ways it might actually be better. And but we do miss each other. I think it's more. We will go crazy unless we can meet our colleagues soon. So the drive to come back to the office is mostly for social reasons.
Yeah, I think many are able to share that feeling with you. But then you are planning to sort of return to status quo at some point.
Yes.
Is this sort of? I want to ask why is that? Do you sort of still feel like? Yeah.
Well, firstly, that's the expressed wish of the employees. They want to come back as soon as possible. And then I used to be of the opinion that you really need to work in the same space. And while that has been challenged now, and we have learned a lot of tools that give us the same kind of experience we have at the whiteboard, I still feel that having a location is important. I think in particular for a consulting company, because we have 4 or 5 different projects that and the team members in those, they work very closely with other team members, but they don't see the other teams as much. And again, it comes to this: why do Piktiv exist as a company? And then you want these meetings in the lunchroom or at the coffee machine. That is much of the benefit, both from a professional and a personal point of view.
And it's sort of, and at least you have made up your mind so that there's too much is lost when people don't meet with each other.
Yes.
It will be interesting to see, because I think now that we are sort of, well, you never know when this whole thing will end once and for all, but or will it never end once and for all, but still sort of calm down a bit when people sort of start returning to their normal ways again. It will be interesting to see, because some companies will probably do it exactly like you do, that they decide to return to the office and get in close contact again, but then probably many others will do exactly the opposite, that they actually find out that they don't need an office at all, for example. So it will be interesting to see.
I think we will revisit the question, because right now all the system development is happening in Skövde. But there is only that big pool of great developers in Skövde, and it's a small city. So I think if we continue to grow the way we have grown, we will eventually need to expand to different cities. And it might be a very tempting idea to do that through remote work, at least initially, because it's always the bootstrapping problem. So you hire one guy in another town, then he or she is alone there. But and then we might set up a fully remote team if there are people that have interest to work remotely also, that are local here in Skövde, because I think it's one of the lessons that it could be really hard if you have a mix. If you have a team where like 3 or 4 is in the office and 1 is remote, that one has a hard time getting into the team.
That actually makes a lot of sense, that it might not even be about whether or not you work remotely, but rather the sort of mix or sort of the imbalance between different members makes it harder.
Well, the thing is, if everyone works remotely, you adapt the processes. If it's only one person, you might not adapt the processes, and then that person suffer.
Exactly. What is sort of your general feeling about from discussing with other companies, that are they planning to return to their offices in Sweden as well, or?
My general feeling is there's a lot of uncertainty about what to do.
So
and we don't have clear guidelines from authorities here. But I'm sure that we will do it first of all in dialogue with all the employees, that everyone feels safe. It's the right thing to do. And then the statement in Sweden is that if it's possible, you should work from home. That's kind of vague, because what do you mean by possible? What's the acceptable cost? For instance, we have a lot of recent employees, and I do think onboarding those would have been much more efficient if we had been in the office. But was it impossible? No, it was not impossible. But it's a trade-off, about the spreading of the disease in the society. But I'm not a
Yeah.
doctor, so I don't feel, it's really hard, a decision that lands on you as a CEO, in my opinion. But I will copy other companies on this. I think I will look what they do.
Yeah, you will look at what the best do and then just follow.
Yes, and I hope their reputation is well earned.
Yeah, but I also think that your sort of approach to it, taking it from through dialogue and making sure that everybody feels safe is actually a pretty good one as well. So I think many can actually copy your style as well on it. Good. I think we could start wrapping up here. Was there something you wanted to ask or go through still, or say something in the end here?
No, nothing really. It's been very interesting to share my views on things. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to hear your thoughts on things. I think these will resonate with many CEOs in the field, and I think people are sort of interested to hear what other people think as well. If someone wants to contact you later, is it best to reach out via email or?
Yes, email is a very good way to reach me at jonas@piktiv.se.
Yeah, great.